Okay, so we've got a set of miniseries coming up, and the first one's about youth sports. Like, this
Mm,
is something that we have. Chris has a ton of experience with this. I'm getting into it. I'm sure a lot of you listening have a bunch of experience with your kids in youth sports.
yep.
So we've got a 3-part series on youth sports, where in this part one, we're just going to kind of talk about, we're going to get a little bit petty about the youth sports world, because I am sure you guys have a lot of the same woes we do. Part 2, we're going to get the chance to hear from someone who has a lot of experience as a youth sports coach. Just kind of hear his take on all of it. And he's past it now, but being able to look back and kind of see, how that's played out now that his daughter's a little bit older. And then part 3, we are going to talk about how you can make sure that your kid is thriving in youth sports, not only with their skill set, but also in making sure that they're staying healthy. Because as we talk about this more and more, I think you're going to start to see that there's a couple of disconnects that could be really detrimental to a young athlete if you don't know what to look for. So,
Hmm.
part 1, why don't we just start petty and move our
Okay.
way back to the serious
Who
stuff.
who are we talking to right now? Like who's which part of it are we talking
Well,
about?
here's the thing. If you're on YouTube or Spotify, whatever, both of those places, there's a place to comment. So drop your comments on your experiences as you're listening to what we're talking about. If it's something that you've experienced too or that you can connect with,
Yeah.
let us know, because we like to hear that.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, first of all, if we're gonna be petty about it, my kid is 7. Okay, he started youth sports when he was 6 years. I mean, he's been in youth sports since he was like 3, but now we're getting into the travel world at age 6, 7.
Hmm.
And and
Youth
you know,
sports at 3 should be fucking gym class, first of all. I don't know what you're talking
well,
about.
okay,
Like
well
if you're
that's
spending
one.
money at the park district leagues for a fucking 3-year-old, that's your fault.
Listen, and hockey is
Kid can barely
not
wipe
cheap.
his own ass, and
I
you're over there trying
know.
to get him to play. I mean, come on. You know what I'm saying?
But here's the thing. I think in the youth sports world, there's a lot of pressure in that regard. And as a hockey player, and I've been talking with other hockey parents about this too, he's 7. If he started hockey today, he would be behind. He'd be
Hmm.
playing the house league with 3 and 4 and 5 year olds. He'd be the biggest kid on the ice. People be like, "What that big old kid doing on the ice?"
Hmm.
Like, I think that's kind of crazy how it's morphed like that, to where he's 7 years old, and not only is he playing travel hockey because he's outgrown the like little in-house one, but he's like, we've already had to take him out of school twice for tournaments. Like, that's kind of crazy.
You know?
that young, they're expected to be at like such this competitive level. But if you want him to play at all, like, what? He's not
Hmm.
going to just walk on the ice at 7 years old. He'll be so behind.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Is that just hockey,
Sure.
or is that everywhere?
No, that's everywhere. I mean, that's a, I mean, what's more crazy what's crazier to think about is it the competitiveness? Is it the exclusivity? Is it how early and psychotic some folks can be about their particular sport? Or is it about the fact that everybody and their mother knows what's going on in terms of skipping school to do it and everybody's
Yeah.
okay with it? But yet school is still the high and almighty. Fuck out of
Yeah, and not even,
here.
missing school or whatever. He's like, some of these practices he doesn't get home till like 8:30 at night. And like, he's dead tired by the time he gets home. He gets home, he's got to eat lunch or dinner at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, rush off to hockey.
Yeah.
By the time he gets home, he can barely hold his head open. And we haven't even looked at the math that he's struggling with and has a
I
test on.
mean, that's the thing. Don't even get me started on the concept of homework, because that's a whole other fucking issue. Like, you're gonna
And
punish the
that's
kids
outside of
because your
homework. He
punk
just
ass teachers can't get their shit done in a fucking classroom time setting. Whose fault is that? How about you teach some shit? You're paid to get taught. You're paid to teach these motherfuckers in the school day. Why are you gonna send all that shit home to ruin family time because you couldn't do it in the day? Oh well, it's because it's the curriculum. That's what I have to teach in the Okay, and that's not a problem for you. Like think about that shit. What the
yeah.
fuck? That doesn't make. I mean, I'm not gonna.
Mhm.
You know what? I'm in a mood. So, I'm sure there are good teachers out there that are just kind of stuck in the hamster wheel, and your hands are tied. That's your income. It is what it is. But it's like, come on, man. You know what I mean? So anyways, back to the sports though. Like, you know, you're going to get stuck with nothing but a bunch of subjective, you know, viewpoints here. Okay,
Hmm.
some parents want their kid to be the best,
Yeah.
and some want their kids to have the best opportunities. Okay, and growing up in the city, for example, we didn't have back in my day. we we didn't have. I mean, maybe we did. I wouldn't know about it. Like we hadn't. There wasn't a thing of travel sports back then. I mean, that was shit. I graduated eighth grade '92. So I mean, how old is your kid? 7. So what grade is that? The
Second,
fuck are you laughing at,
I
asshole?
think.
You're like, oh, 92. I was just coming out of my daddy's nut. Stupid. Shut
I was
up.
actually 4.
Anyway, so okay, so you know, we had park districts. We had a bunch of. We had to pay to do that too. Little league and things like that, and there were more
Hmm.
competitive, you know, park districts for sure. Um,
Uh-huh.
but not at least not in this. Again, to my experience in the city growing up, we didn't have that. We had it was all about it was just the park districts, right? And I'm sure there was still travel ball going on over in the burbs now, but you know, travel ball, travel sports is. I mean, it is a small little government. It's about it's a straight cash grab because you're going
Oh
to
my.
pay for the exclusivity and the title of saying I play travel ball or I skate travel hockey, I do this, I do this, because the lunacy behind it is that people do it and knowing that you're gonna still come out of pocket for hotel
Oh.
expenses, trap your gas, your food. You're gonna come out of pocket for the kid missing school, for you missing work, your dues and your jerseys and all, your gear, all of that, right? And
Yeah.
and that's not included. The dues alone are still going to be 2 grand, 3 grand,
Thousands.
right? And let's not
Thousands.
forget, after all of that, you're still spending on fucking fundraisers. Like what? 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 You know what I
Yep.
mean? And so
Hmm.
it's a complete circus. But having gone through it, you know, you'd like to think that you're with an organization or a team that can give you that opportunity for your kid to be what you
Really.
hope they can do. And hopefully you're not trying to live vicariously, you know, through them, because there are some who, and that's another issue, like in terms of getting petty. Like there are parents who just seriously suck shit their whole life at anything athletic and are trying to be that boy or girl that they're, you know, they're living through their kids, and maybe they're good or whatever, I don't know, but
Or it's
oftentimes
a
than not, if you sucked if you're a parent and you suck shit at a sport, you have some genes you got to overcome.
or
You
the
know,
opposite. It's parents who played their whole lives and they want their kid to follow in their footsteps. They were really good and they want to see their kid be really good, but their kid wants nothing to do with it. Aaron, my husband, was he did not he played hockey his whole life. He didn't want Easton to play hockey because he was afraid that Easton would feel like he had to because his dad did.
well,
And
yeah,
the
well
only
that's the
reason,
difference though. At
yeah,
least Aaron is aware of that and being like
yes.
cognizant of that possibility. That's a totally like selfless thing and a way to look at it. But
But some
unfortunately,
people are not like that.
that's
And
not
so
the
you got a
majority.
kid on the yeah, you got a kid on the ice who doesn't want to be there, who's holding up his own progress, who is not helping the team the way that you would want a teammate to help. And what then? Like that, first of all, that poor kid, but everybody else around, like they're not doing anybody any favors by forcing your kid to do a sport. And I'm sure no
Well,
matter what sport you're in, you've seen that.
nobody will care about that. What they'll care about is the fact that that kid's taking up a spot that could be played by somebody else.
Absolutely.
And nobody has the balls to say anything about it. You know what I mean. So
Mm-hmm.
so the upside to travel ball is the travel sports is the exclusivity, the at least the assumption that you're going to get top level uh, facilities and training and
Yeah.
coaching and da 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 da. And all of it is a complete, like, again, it's a cash grab. All of it is
Oh, yeah, for
it's
sure.
only about the boys club. It's only about who knows who, and it's no. I mean, that's if you know that you're already. a step ahead. And I don't care who or what. I mean, anybody can say anything to me. I've had experience. I've pitched, training for different sports and different leagues over the years. And it's always the same. I know a guy thinks I'm going to go with them kind of thing. And it's like a complete, like, let's train in a fucking garage. You're going to bring a team over. It's just like our facility is not, Commit isn't the largest place.
Mm-mm.
And could we retrofit it for a sport? Yeah, sure. But it's not like I'm not going to try to bring, I wouldn't have tried to bring 30, 20 some kids in a facility filled with gym equipment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially if you're young, because everything you see on YouTube isn't necessarily for you. Like, I mean, parents, if you're over here saving your Pinterest boards and your fucking Instagram saves for like training stuff for my Johnny All-Star, and it's showing some really seemingly easy stuff by some super buff ass dude, like, you need to be paying attention to training online, or saving things that you see on social that are applicable to your position, that has
Yeah.
relevance to your kid's age. You know what I
And
mean?
yeah. And even then it gets dicey, because if you are looking at a complicated, complex exercise and you don't understand what it's supposed to be doing and
Mm-hmm.
how your body is supposed to make it happen, you could really injure yourself.
Yeah.
Or you could start to reinforce some incorrect movement patterns that will later cause an injury.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that is so that it really drives me nuts about youth sports, and I haven't even been in it that long, but I've seen it, is the lack of understanding of the general human body outside of that particular sport that these kids are getting. I mean,
Well, that's
and
the
you
other
see
part
all
is
these,
when you
the
pay for it.
injuries.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
mean,
honestly, the parents bring that sense of entitlement in a way, because they're the ones footing the bill to
mhm,
pay, right? And in some demented ass way, again, unless they're like your husband, more oftentimes than not, that parent feels, they've got a right to say something to the coach. Hey, why
mhm,
isn't, let's do this instead, or I want to, you know what I mean? Or they get, like for softball, they'll get extra pitching lessons on the side, or a private trainer on the side, and just to because they can, and
yeah,
they want to try to, get their kid more time on the ice or the field or whatever it is, and it doesn't, and simply training isn't the same as skill development. Now and
right.
that's a very broad statement, but again, you're talking about your boy is 7 years old. He's
Yeah.
probably like still trying to figure out how far he could piss.
Well, you've
And
seen
and
how he
and
runs.
and
He's
like,
still trying to
yeah,
figure out how to
it,
run.
yeah. I see that's a train wreck. And so like, you can, you're trained to figure out, you can,
Uh-huh.
assess a gait pattern, and probably put
Thank
two and two
goodness.
together of how to transition someone's stepping sequences, and again, their gait, into how that may or may lead to any asymmetries when it comes to skating,
Hmm.
because there's a totally different ballgame.
Hmm.
Okay, you're sitting there, instead of running full sprints and cutting and jiving, you got to talk about weight distribution, because you're over here just
Yeah.
straight fa la 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 on some goddamn 1/8 inch blades. Like, what the fuck, you know what I mean? And so,
Yeah.
not to mention, there's a hard ass puck coming at your ass. Like,
And
there's a
somebody try
lot
and knock
going
you
on.
over.
So like, there's a different kind of training involved, and
Right.
in hockey it's sequential. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Because normally you would want to start with some kind of proprioceptive rich environment. You would want to get, from a neural standpoint, you would want to get head, shoulders, knees, and toes to fire the way that they're supposed to,
Right.
if for nothing else, for the sake of stability and balance. And that concept goes to every sport, to to
Hmm.
to weight loss. It goes to everything, because what the fuck? I mean,
But see, the way that you're talking through this is not a way that most coaches in youth sports are prepared to talk through it. They know the sport really well, but
right.
maybe they don't understand the mechanics of the human body as well, and how those
Yep.
two things work together. So
And then
it's
maybe
like,
they're not supposed to, and that's, but
oh,
you're
for
asking for a
sure.
unicorn to be a
Absolutely.
guy that can
Absolutely. I mean,
like, I would
listen.
make a terrible coach, a terrible head coach. There's no way. I don't know, with the exception of football, I don't know many others. Well, I don't know softball like our head coach, you know,
Yeah.
and my fellow assistants, they could all be head coaches in their own right. They have been head
Uh-huh.
coaches in their own right. Like, they're the guys that have the white meat straight up. Like, they can.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. Hey, and I said from the start, like, I'm not that guy. My
Yeah.
job is to give you guys the best possible athletes I can, so that you can do whatever it is that you do as a coach. Okay. And that's my line in the sand.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to overstep. I'm not going to reteach and I will point out, you can generate more power if you do this.
Yes.
And I'm going to assume that you have a reason for showing this kid to hit, like, and this is for boys and girls sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I would never, I'm not going to be that. I don't know the rules I don't even know the rules the way that they do, like why you would do a certain thing. Like, I have my
Yeah.
mindset and my way of doing shit, but I'm an assistant coach, and I know what I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm not saying anything bad about head coaches. My husband's the head coach of my son's team. Like I said, he knows hockey in and out, up and down. He knows everything there is to know about the game of hockey, every single rule, why you would do those silly things,
Right.
like,
But
call
coaching
timeouts
is a difference between coaching and being an
and
analyst,
train. Yes,
because
and so
you know in the sport's not enough.
yes, and I don't think that most programs give that particular idea enough attention. Most programs don't have an analyst out there saying, it would generate more power for you to do this, or you keep missing this one skill because you have to make this
Mm-hmm.
one tweak. Like, I don't think there's enough of that.
And
And
I don't know that it's gonna be. I mean, you think about it. Like, again, I just went through it in softball. Okay, so I can't
yep.
speak for hockey per se, but let me put it to you like this. I've got experience here. I've spoken to enough of the travel ball kids in softball here in Oklahoma, and that
Mm-hmm.
was the reason why we moved down here for the sporting aspect of it, because the sport is just way more intense.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like top to bottom, they're just better athletes here. Not athletes, they're just better softball players. They
Mm-hmm.
play all year round. You know, it's not just in summer and when the weather's nice back home in Illinois, because, you know, sooner or later it'll be fucking raining and 30 degrees, and you're not going to play like you would when it's the same month, the same year, and it's 80 something down here. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying? It's just easier to play an
Absolutely.
outdoor sport when it's better weather, right? And there are leagues in volleyball, travel ball, softball, basketball, and football. I have experience in, where there are leagues known for winning,
Mm-hmm.
and colleges go to those leagues. They go to those, you know what I'm saying? They get that attention because they win. The real issue isn't the fact that travel ball is full of pretentious ass know-it-all fucking parents. You know, okay. I mean, honestly,
I
because
know.
there's plenty of them. Okay, it's not the issue there. The issue is how that's ground level. It's where it
Yeah.
comes from the end. The colleges dictate what that's the grab. You know what I'm saying? Oh, my kid's never gonna play college if he's playing at, you know, random ass club, or just club ball,
Right.
or rec ball. It's got to
Right. Right.
be
Right.
travel, because that sets you apart, because you're willing to travel. Well, travel ball people are better because they pay more money for it, you know, and they get more attention to it, and the tournament costs are this and da 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 da. Right? You know, it's the same concept for division ball in college. Like, off the top, people think Division 1 is number one, Division 2, then three, then JUCO. You know what I'm saying? NAIAs. When, as much as I want to say, like, there's no real difference between the two, there's a difference between the two. Like, Division 1 athletes are just physical specimens. They're
Right.
probably better students, and they've been
Mm-hmm.
groomed to be against the best their whole life. Like, they're
Yeah.
Division 1 athletes right now that, you know, like Jada Coleman, for example, plays for Oklahoma, and I'm Facebook friends with their dad. And I was talking to him at the World Series game this last summer, and she played for Texas Glory. Texas Glory is a huge travel ball organization, and Jada's sitting at, you know, what, 5'10".
Mm-hmm.
She's not particularly fast, but she starts center. She's a 3-time world champion. Like she's a monster, and she's
Yeah.
a physical specimen. I watched her run camps, and she's broad shouldered. She's like a damn dude, like straight up. And Mia, in a foot race, Mia smokes her 10 out of 10 times, period,
Mm-hmm.
point blank. But you got the same play coming. You got a 5'10", half black, half white girl who can jump probably through the roof. And then my kid at 5'3", doesn't matter how fast she is, Filipino and German and whatever else she is, like she ain't jumping that tall. You know what I mean? You got to play differently. You get what I'm
Yes.
saying? Now,
Yes.
what if I took Mia and put her in the same competition as Jada went through? She'd be better for it
Mm-hmm.
because she would have no choice. So if your kid
Right.
sucks shit at hockey and he gets thrown into a league where it's A-level teams and you're a C-level player, you're by default, you will eventually experience and be around and become accustomed to A-level competition.
Yep.
Right? So people will pay that money for that reason.
Right.
Okay. But I don't know how travel hockey is compared to other states, but from a softball perspective, even the not so good players I've seen down here will probably, when I've done my research on them, still kick some ass and stat for stat destroy people back home.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's, like you said, for any sport. I mean, different area, obviously, hockey has grown a lot in Illinois over the last decade,
Mm.
but obviously you go to like Michigan, Minnesota, the closer you get up to
Yeah.
Canada, the better
Yeah.
the hockey is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Northern Wisconsin, all those places have these monster programs. Even here, I mean, there are, oopsie, there are youth hockey programs that cost $20,000 a year, like
Well,
the amount of a car. And
yeah.
obviously when you go there, you're getting the best of the best hockey that you can get, to the point where a lot of those kids are homeschooled, or they do go to actual schools that are built around hockey,
Yep.
like
Yep.
schools that
Yep.
half your day is hockey practice.
Well, the other thing is, so the question now becomes, how does my kid, no, I'm not going to go and move to another state like you did. You know what I mean? And the question
Mm-hmm.
comes, how do you curb that gap? And what happens is they come down to their metrics and they follow the YouTubes and they say, all right, what is your kid's 40 time, your home to first time, your exit velo? What are the metrics that someone can gauge whether or not you're a good player? Because you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Because the real ones know that the stats are one thing, right? But the only stat that is uniform is one that everyone has competed against. And that brings us right back to the things that we do as trainers. Because if Mia can show all day long, she's all state, all conference, all area, da 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 da. She was all day, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean much if it's going to be against shitty competition. But a home to 60 time is exactly the same here, there, and anywhere. It's just
Right.
meat. It's just feet, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
the metrics of whether or not an athlete can par is where we get involved. And that's where the parents come in and everybody knows a better way of doing things. And it
Mm-hmm.
becomes, and a lot of the times, back to being the petty shit about it, a lot of parents, the side talk is the part that is the most annoying, because you can just see the conversations happening and it's like, oh my God, and it's like a little fucking mini drama and it sucks ass, because some kids don't want to be around it. Some kids exactly follow the shit that their parents do,
Mm-hmm.
and that's unfortunate because it ruins the experience of it. But again, like, the head coaches have a shit ton to deal with trying to end up parenting the kids, because it becomes a really expensive daycare if you're not careful.
Well, and here's it. And like I said, my husband, this is his first year coaching. He didn't plan on being a head coach. He always said he would not coach his own kid. He never
Mm,
wanted to do that. But when the opportunity came up, and he knows the game, he wants his kid to have a
yep.
good experience. And so he said yes. And I never realized personally all of the things that a head coach is responsible for. I mean, when communication is kind of lacking between the organization and the parents, like, people expect the coach to be the go-between, and the coach doesn't get any more communication than the
Mm-hmm.
parents do. I mean, at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, he is also a parent on this team. He's responsible for finding and booking all of the tournaments. His
Mm-hmm.
assistant coach has 3 kids on 3 different hockey teams in 2 different divisions.
Mm-hmm.
The assistant coach is coaching all three of those teams. So when we are planning tournaments, he has to make sure that it works with his assistant coach. It's just there's so
Yeah.
much that goes
It's
into it
stressful. Super
that it
stressful.
is. And not to mention, I mean, these kids are 6, 7, barely 8 years old
Mm-hmm.
playing hockey 4 to 5 to 6 days a week.
There are some
They've
parents. I
got
mean, some parents can jump in and help out with that.
oh,
With that
yeah.
too.
And that's the other thing in hockey specifically, like if you can't skate, you can't help. So your options for saying, "Hey, can you help me on at practice today?" are limited because a lot of parents have never played hockey before. Their kids are in it, they don't know how to skate. They don't know the
Mm-hmm.
game and they're
Mm-hmm.
learning with the kids. So it's just a lot that goes into it that you don't think about, and the coaches have
Mm-hmm.
so much pressure on them to like
Yep.
do well and to make
Yep.
sure it's a lot, and that's something that I never really noticed before.
Yep.
I think that's really important for parents to know too. Like you
It's
can't.
it's hard to find, in what some in an organizational person would be like. That's why we have those welcome meetings and whatnot. Like there's always a parent meeting
And
to
managers,
you're
there's team
supposed to go
managers for
through
the
the
team.
shit and try to figure that out. But the
Hmm.
nuts and bolts of it actually comes down to, setting certain sets of expectations. You know what I'm saying? The
Yeah.
best kid will play there or whatever it is. And the problem is, especially nowadays, the entitlement that flies around so freely. People will expect still, well, I'm paying just as much, or well, I booked the
Yeah.
hotel, or it's my kid's birthday, and there's always
Yeah.
something, that comes up, and I think that sometimes parents would think that because the coach's kids play, that they get the special, treatment and things. And
That's
I
another
know that
really hard
I've
thing.
I've heard that too about Mia in the beginning, and I went openly to those parents and said, "Bring your fucking kid on the line. Let them go at it. I don't care.
Right.
Your kid beats my kid. The team wins all the way around, and my kid wins because she gets a chance to learn from somebody better. Like I'm
Yeah.
down. Like if you're
Yeah.
like, I'm not afraid of competition, but if your
No,
kid
not at
can't
all.
hold it, then just how about you just help the team be better and accept the fact that right now your kid could potentially learn from mine, or maybe the team winning boosts morale all over the place. It's just parents need to know their role. They need to know what they're signing up for. They
Hmm.
need to know, to the stresses of what the coaches got to go through, and they need to address
Hmm.
the things that they also hear, like the horror stories
Yes.
and the favoritism and whatever. Like talk about the shit. Don't be a pussy about it and hide and wait to sit there in your private group me's and all your
Yes.
bullshit and wait for it to fester, because sooner or later you're going to slip up. Your kid's going to hear it, and then Johnny's
Uh-huh.
going to hate Jerry, and there's going to be a bunch of problems, and it's going to be your fault.
Yes. And here's the thing. We've just started the season. We have a really great group of parents. I mean, all of them are, we've, we've had nothing but a good experience
Mhm.
so far with them.
Everybody's great in the beginning.
But, but the thing
Just being
is,
honest.
I think it speaks volumes when you have an issue that you go straight to the coach, right? And because you're right, when it's when it's behind the scenes and the the coach can't do anything about something they don't know about, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like when you do have issues like that, I think it's super important to make sure that you're addressing the issue where it came
Mm-hmm.
from, not necessarily, trying to fix it yourself or wondering why coach isn't doing ABC. Like just talk to them. Most coaches want to hear that. They want, and if
Yeah.
they don't, they shouldn't be coaching. But most coaches want to hear that kind of feedback.
No, most coaches don't want to hear that shit. Fuck out of here.
No, you don't think
No,
so?
hell, fuck no. They don't want to deal with that shit.
I'd
No,
rather
no,
somebody
no,
come
no, 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 no head coach. No head coach wants to hear no goddamn. They want to have open communication.
Well,
That's
that's what I
different.
mean. I mean, you don't need to
No, it's
go and
not. You
tell him,
talking about no, motherfucker.
no,
You talking about situations where people have their butt hurt about something stupid. Like there needs to
no.
be a situation where people have open communication, but there's got to be a way,
A
an
boundary, a
agreeable
limit.
way of an SOP to deal with those people. Otherwise,
Mm,
it's never going to work.
well, I don't mean
It'll
like,
never work. You know what I mean? Like I know the club volleyball the travel ball program I was working with back in the day. Like the director and one of the national coaches, he implemented a 48-hour rule. So if you were pissed
Mhm.
off at something, you got 48 hours to chill the fuck out before you try to come and talk some shit to someone, before you even bother
Yes,
bringing it up. Take note of it all day, but don't come to me or anybody else until it's done. And that worked to cool down a
that's a really
lot
good
of
idea.
scenarios. But like
Mhm.
in if like for softball, that wouldn't necessarily work as well because half the parents are behind the dugout or they're behind the, you can always, they have immediate access not just to
Yeah.
the team and the coaches, but to also the umpires. You know what I mean? On
Yeah.
hockey, it would be a little different. You have that big old the plexiglass ring stopping everybody from
Jump
you
it.
know what I mean? You
Yeah.
can't really. You can maybe hear the jargon in the back, hear it in the background, but they're not going to say that was a terrible call. Da, da, da. Like it's kind of white noise. But
Right.
like in softball, even in football, they're still separated, right? Unless they're on the
Hmm.
field. But in softball, you got parents who are right behind the dugout and right behind home plate umpires, and if they miss a call, it's like, yeah, yeah, great call. You're really missing him, and it's just that doesn't help anybody. Do you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And
Yeah.
it's
And
it's
I mean,
good head coaches will have an open door policy
hmm.
with one hand on the door to reverse that shit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No,
Like
that,
I think you need
yes, I do.
as a parent, you have to earn that right to be straight about it and have to assume that that coach has probably heard you were coming.
Or, yeah. 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 I don't mean like petty gossip stuff. Like that stuff has no
But that's
place.
travel
But
ball. That's
yeah.
travel sports, dude. And every sport, sooner or later, it always happens. Somebody gets
Mhm.
butthurt that their kid's not the star, you know, or
Uh,
they didn't treat a situation, you didn't treat a situation like they would, and that's why I could never be a head coach. I don't. Oh, I lack the patience for it. You know what I'm saying? Like
mhm.
because I played and I would never. I would. I guess I could if I knew I had a team around that saw things the same way I did. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
All right, we're getting close to time here, but I think next part we're going to be talking to a head coach who spent a lot of time head coaching, who knows his sport very, very well, and could kind of give his view on the youth sports world, kind of like we did, but from a head coach's perspective, since neither of us are really head coaches. And the last one, we're going to talk a little bit more about how you can make sure that your kid is doing the best that they can in their sport, that they're that you're doing everything you can to help them level up, and what to look out for when you should start to kind of look for that outside help. So, anyways, youth sports.